Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavana Girivaradari Gopi Janavana Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Gupta Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shata Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavandam Ki Jai Navadiptam Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Vishnu. Thank you, bro. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto. So we'll be on Canto 2, Chapter 5, text number 1. This chapter is entitled The Cause of All Causes. Narada Uvacha Deva Deva Namaha Te Astu Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tat Vijanihi Yat Jnanam Atma Tattva Nidarshanam. Narada Uvacha Deva Deva Namastestu Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tadvijanihi Yajnanam Atma Tattva Nidarshanam. Narada Uvacha Deva Deva Namastestu Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tadvijanihi Yajnanam Atma Tattva Nidarshanam. Narada Uvacha Deva Deva Namastestu Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja Tadvijanihi Yajnanam Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Narada Vacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijani Yajnanam
Tadvijanahi Ajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tatvin Vijanihi Yajnanam
Tatvijnanihi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijnani Yajnanam
Tadvijanahi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Pavana Purvaja
Tadvijani Yajnanam
Tadvijanahi Jnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Darshanam.
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvigdani Yajnanam
Tadvijanihi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam.
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhutavavana Purvaja
Yajnanam
Tadvijana Niyajnanam
Tattva Darshanam Narada Uvacha
Narada
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhutavavana Purvaja
Advijanihi Jash Jnanam
Tadvijanahi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijani Yajnanam
Tad Vijanahi Ajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijani Yajnanam
Tad Vijanihi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Pavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijani Yajnanam
Tad Vijanihi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Narada Uvacha
Narada Uvacha
Deva Deva Namastestu
Deva Deva Namastestu
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Bhuta Bhavana Purvaja
Tadvijanihi Yajnanam
Tad Vijanihi Yajnanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam
Atma Tattva Nidarshanam Narada Uvacha Sri Narada said, Deva of all demigods, Deva the demigod, Namaha obeisances, Te unto you as, Astu are, Bhutabhavana the generator of all living beings, Purvaja the firstborn, Tat Vijanihi. Please explain that knowledge. Yat Jnanam, which knowledge? Atma Tattva, transcendental. Nidarshanam, specifically directs. Translation. Sri Narada Muni asked Brahmaji, O chief amongst the demigods, O firstborn living entity, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the supersoul. Purport. The perfection of the parampara system, or the path of disciplic succession, is further confirmed. In the previous chapter, it has been established that Brahmaji, the firstborn living entity, received knowledge directly from the Supreme Lord. And the same knowledge was imparted to Narada, the next disciple. Narada asked to receive the knowledge, and Brahmaji imparted it upon being asked. Therefore, asking for transcendental knowledge from the right person and receiving it properly is the regulation of the disciplic succession. This process is recommended in the Bhagavad Gita 4.2. The inquisitive student must approach a qualified spiritual master to receive transcendental knowledge by surrender, submissive inquiries, and service. Knowledge received by submissive inquiries and service is more effective than knowledge received in exchange for money. A spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from Brahma and Narada has no demand for dollars and cents. A bona fide student has to satisfy him by sincere service to obtain knowledge of the relation and nature of the individual soul and the super soul. Okay, so Narada uvacha deva deva namastestu bhuta bhavana purvaja tad vijanihi yad jnanam atma tattva nidarshanam. Translation. Sri Narada Muni asked Brahmaji, O chief amongst the demigods, O firstborn living entity, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Please tell me that transcendental knowledge which specifically directs one to the truth of the individual soul and the super soul. Hare Krishna. So Narada Muni is asking for knowledge submissively from the spiritual master. If one has a guide or a counselor, then one should ask that person to reveal knowledge unto them. Then the counselor can, bestow that knowledge. So Mother Devaki was stressing that she has one book where she stresses the point that we should have somebody in our devotional service to help us and encourage us, guide us. And that's really helpful, because we don't have to have any questions unanswered. If our questions go unanswered, then they may turn into doubts. A question or an inquiry or an inquisitive thought is not dangerous, but when that festers, or more or less it's ignored or it's not addressed properly, then it can become more dangerous, and it can lead to losing faith in the acharyas, in Srila Prabhupada, in Krishna, in the devotees, like that. So we have a responsibility to, as Prabhupada described, that we have a responsibility to ask for transcendental knowledge from the right person and then to receive it properly. So there's three factors. The right person, we have to ask, and then we have to receive. So all three of those things we can learn from the acharyas, just like we can learn the subject matter of what they're actually going to describe to us. We can also learn how to actually ask questions. They also show how to do that. That's part of the system. So Narada Muni here, he's a fully spiritual being. His body is fully spiritualized. He's completely transcendental to the modes of material nature, which we heard about in the first canto. And in one sense, he's supremely blessed as, world famous preacher, universal preacher of Krishna consciousness. But still, he's going to ask Brahma, his father, and he glorifies him, O chief amongst the demigods, O firstborn living entity. So that's really important too, that we can humbly offer glorification to superiors. That's not very easy, you know. That's not very easy for us, but we practice that every day a lot, because in our pranams to our spiritual master and our pranams or pranati to Srila Prabhupada, we practice glorifying him before offering obeisances. And the same thing is here. O chief among the demigods, O firstborn living entity, I beg to offer respectful obeisances unto you. So I always thought that was nice that Prabhupada, he used this language that he will say, I beg to offer my respects to you. Isn't that nice? I beg to offer my respects to you. Or sometimes if you read Prabhupada's letters, he'll say, I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated nil, meaning they didn't put a date on their letter. Or I beg to acknowledge receipt of your letter dated XYZ, right? So Prabhupada is kind of bringing out even more of this mood. It's not just pranams, you know. It's, I beg to offer you my respectful obeisances. The word is namaha. Namaha or namaste, right? Namaste. So we're familiar with that, but it means that I'm begging to offer my obeisances. So then, after glorification, and then obeisances, what does obeisances mean? It means that I am your obedient, right? So Bhakti Fred, he used to tell me that he watched some with Radha describing some pastimes with His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. And Bhakti Fred used to be very much ecstatic to recount that in that video, His Holiness Radhanath Swami was describing that when Radhanath Swami and Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj will meet each other, they will say, I am your obedient. And Bhakti Fred would appreciate it so much that it was impressive to me, right? So that's what it means. Obeisances. I am your obedient. I am ready to obey you. And actually, amongst Vaishnava society, according to the Vedic scriptures, there are all types of times to offer respects to devotees, to the spiritual master, to the Lord. And at all of those times, we're practicing this system right here. Because when we pay obeisances, we're meant to pay obeisances along with our mouth, our head, our body, our mouth, and also internally with our mind or our heart. Our consciousness is surrendering. We're consciously subordinating ourselves to the person to whom we are trying to offer our obeisances. That's why we say, I beg to offer my respectful obeisances, because actually, I don't want to offer my obeisances to anybody. And, I don't. But I beg, then maybe, or if I'm in the right consciousness, then I'm begging to offer my obeisances to you. And this is very important. At RVC, we practice this a little bit. First time we see the devotees in the morning or that day, then many of us have been trained to offer our obeisances to the devotee. And that is, of course, we also observe etiquette in the temple room. So if there's the deities are open, curtains are open, then it's not according to nectar of devotion. Then in general, we don't offer obeisances directly to devotees, to individual persons within the assembly, except for Srila Prabhu. So we do that practice at RVC, and persons who have visited and they see that, they become impressed with that. And wherever devotees from RVC go and they take that practice, that one practice is very instructive. That one practice to offer obeisances to devotees is very inspiring to devotees, because devotees want to offer obeisances. Devotees are begging to offer their obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, to the devotees. They want that. And when devotees who have been trained, as I've mentioned, show physically, yes, I'm trying to, I am begging to offer my obeisances to the devotees, then devotees have told me that is very interesting to them, very impressive. We don't mind beg to offer our obeisances. All this is a practice. If we never offer any obeisances, then how can we beg to offer obeisances? Or if we never try, how can we get this mood, which is now here between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva? Narada Muni begging to offer his respects. So, Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text 2, Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakala neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. We heard about this yesterday. His Holiness Dandaviri Goswami gave a little lecture about the end of Bhagavad Gita, and he was mentioning that Srila Prabhupada, Arjuna, became the torchbearer for the parampara after it had been lost. It had previously been understood by the saintly kings through disciplic succession. And we hear about that in text 4.1, that yogam, that I taught this knowledge of yoga to Vivaswan, which is the name of the sun god. Now that's interesting. The post of the sun god is one thing called like Surya, you could say. He's the person. And Vivaswan is the actual individual in that post, which is something that's very interesting. That post is like an occupation, like whatnot, just like the post of Indra, the king of heaven. That's actually a post which is occupied by different persons who generally known by that name, by Indra, but actually that's the name for the post of the king of heaven, not necessarily the individual who is in that post. And we hear that in the Bhagavatam, different persons take the post of Indra at different times, right? Because he got kicked out like a pig, right? So then somebody had to take his post and do his job. Anyway, so the saintly kings are in two lines, the sun god and moon god. And they're receiving knowledge successively, one after another. And they only receive that knowledge when they follow this system. They approach, they glorify, they offer obeisance, they inquire, and then they receive submissively the answers, and then they apply it to their lives and make benefit. So we're supposed to learn this science, and sincerity is very important. As we were hearing, Srila Prabhupada was when Srila Prabhupada seemingly glorifies himself. He doesn't do that ever. But when Srila Prabhupada this morning in the Lilamrita said, there was nobody helping me, but it is because I was sincere. And then humbly, as if he needs to explain himself or defend himself or to his disciples, he does so just to protect our fragile consciousness. He says, yes, how is it possible that all this ISKCON has happened if I wasn't sincere? Therefore, he's backing up that statement with some logic and philosophy, which is based on the Shastra. And the Shastra says nobody can spread this movement or spread Hare Krishna without being specifically empowered. Therefore, so many Bhagavad Gitas are there, but they didn't spread anything except for until at least we understand that we didn't have much until Srila Prabhupada came with his Bhagavad Gita as it is. And it empowered. He gave empowerment to spread this movement. He was personally empowered by his Guru Maharaj to make devotees through his transcendental vibration, which he had received by this process. He approached, right? He practices approach, glorify, respect, inquire, receive, apply. So it's working because Prabhupada is living that. And what's so nice is that we look up and down Srila Prabhupada's life, which has been so gloriously recorded, and we would be benefited to learn about Srila Prabhupada. If we study his life and we see his letters, his dealings, his conversations, we see video footage of him living on this planet, walking around and interacting, we'll see this is not an ordinary person. He's not contaminated. Not contaminated. At least from my puny perspective, due to my contamination in this material world, at least I can perceive he's much more advanced in every category than myself. Maybe that's all I can say. What happens then? Then we have cause to glorify. Then we have cause to glorify. Why should I glorify somebody who's not as good as me? Right? What if you never searched for the Prabhupada? It's like, actually, we were here yesterday. Then when it's down to Virgo Swami, he elucidated that when we learn about our situation, then that helps build faith. If we learn about Krishna and we learn about our place in the material world, trying to enjoy hopelessly, and we really get realistic, then our faith will increase, or we'll be able to act on whatever little faith we've been given. So we have the responsibility to explore or investigate. It's our duty to verify the spiritual master's qualities by our own intelligence. We must. So when we understand that this person is much greater than myself, and we have developed little humility, then we don't mind offering respects and praise. Yeah. And if we understand philosophically, we say, this person is getting all his good qualities from Krishna. So I'm glorifying them, but they got it from Krishna. So I know why I'm glorifying them, because I want to please Krishna. And I know if I recognize his qualities in others, then he'll be pleased with me because I'm seeing according to the Shastra. So all these are reasons to be respectful and otherwise, which we've also been hearing about. The question where here, the point that I want to bring out before I stop is sincerity. All this exploration, approaching, glorification, inquiry, all these are part of service. All these are part of sincerity. If we're not sincere, we don't want to go and approach. We don't want to find out more about the devotees. We don't want to find more out about Prabhupada. We just leave it as it is, So our sincerity can be measured by how much are we applying ourselves to the process, right? If we're not applying ourselves, how can it be said that I'm sincere, right? If I've been given instructions and I'm not trying my best to follow it, right? Then I can't be said to be sincere. And that's a hard pill to swallow. Is that honestly, sincerity is not easy to come by. Just like Prabhupada describes in one awesome lecture, he says, eagerness, the price you pay to get Krishna or to see Krishna face to face, to experience Krishna or to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead, realize him. Without a doubt, you realize him is eagerness. But that eagerness, somebody can say, yes, I am eager. But Prabhupada said, no, that eagerness, that is not very easy to get. But it can be obtained by association of devotees. So that's why we observe this practice, because this is the way. Approach, glorify, right? Respect, inquire, receive, apply. That is association. That's association. That's how we're meant to associate with the superior in spiritual knowledge. If we don't associate like that, right, then our association is more or less stunted, right? So association with the superior is this whole process. Narada Muni is showing us how it's done, and we should to do it too. And the spiritual master is not asking for any money. We don't need it. We're looking for one sincere soul who wants to become a pure devotee of Krishna. And we're ready to help him as much as we can. And if we help that person, then we'll also become pure devotees one day. Let's find him. Let's find that person, I should say. Let's find that soul who's ready to become pure devotee and just give gallons of blood to that person. Because one day we may be able to go back to Godhead. Okay. Ki Jai. Any last moment thing? Or should we stop? Okay, let us stop. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.